Today's topic is a very interesting one, helping students or children develop curiosity. Now, why curiosity? Why are we focused on curiosity? What does curiosity do? Why is curiosity a big deal? Why is it an important subject that we are discussing and we are thinking that we need to help students to develop? Now, over time, we've been talking about innovation and innovation and innovation for a very long time. But you realize that innovation in itself is an outcome. Innovation is what people are able to do. What really triggers that innovation? That's where the world is shifting to now. So beyond talking about innovation, we're now asking the question, what makes children innovative? What drives innovation? And so curiosity is actually critical. Curiosity is a critical element for both creativity and innovation. Why did I say so? Because it's the catalyst for creative thinking and problem solving. Unless a child is able to ask questions, unless a child is curious, they really will never get to the point where they're able to solve problems. So rather than focusing on creating innovation, we need to now find what are the drivers of innovation, what are the things that actually feed innovation. And that's why curiosity is one core ingredient we cannot afford to ignore in our students, in our young children, particularly if we want to help them to be the future of this continent. Some data is very shocking. I mean, the statistics out there is quite shocking. In 2050, Africa is going to be responsible for producing 40% of the global workforce. The question is, the population is there, but this population, what are they able to do? This population, will they be able to provide the needed, will they be skilled enough to drive the working population of the world in a few years from now? As we are migrating people to all parts of the world, what are we migrating? Are we migrating low-end workers or creative people? And so the question is, curiosity is a very critical element, because if our students are going to be innovators, then they must have the ability to actually ask questions. And what is curiosity basically? Curiosity is, in simplest terms, is simply what? Knowing how to ask questions and how to find the answers. Very basic. It's simply the urge, that thing that drives you and says, I want to find out more. Whatever it is that drives you, and you're telling yourself, let me go and find out more, let me go and check what's behind the scene. So you can see that child in the picture there. This child sees a hole, and the child is wondering, what is inside this hole? Is there something special there? I want to go and see it. Curiosity is simply the urge to know more about something. A curious mind doesn't stop at asking questions, but also takes steps to find answers. If a child is going to be curious, or if a child is curious, they are not only asking important questions, they're also asking, how do I answer this question? And this is the interesting part. Anybody who is not curious has no chance of discovering anything. There's no creativity, there's no innovation, there's no invention. Curiosity is what drives innovation, really. A child who is able to ask questions, and then not just ask questions, but think, why is this there like this? I want to find out what this is. If you talk to employers, that's really what they are looking for in the workplace. That's what they want, the skill that they want people to bring to the workplace to be able to learn and apply to problems. We're talking about problem solving and creativity. Curiosity is what drives all of those skills. And it all starts from questioning, okay? Basically, it's the first part of curiosity is the child can generate a question and say, what's this? And then it doesn't stop at questioning. It goes to the point of asking to the child saying, I want to find out the answer to that question. And questions generally that children ask fall into two categories. There are questions that they can figure out themselves, and there are questions that they cannot figure out by themselves. So a child asks a question, what is behind that television? Now that's a question that this child can find the answer to. And so generally, when a child asks that question, what is behind this television? What do you think is the natural thing that child wants to do? He wants to find out what is behind the television. And when they go there to check what is behind the television, what really happens? Most likely, they pull it down. And then what do we say? We say, this child is destructive. what it leads them to exploration is what we call destruction. We say, this child is just destroying things. So a child sees a bottle on a shelf and says, I wonder what that will taste like. It will be interesting to find out what will this particular drink taste like. And so the child says, I want to find out. And the child wakes up and says, I want to really go out there and check what this drink tastes like. When they go to find out what this drink tastes like, what happens? They drink it. Or the child says, this thing, I'm seeing this blue flame, it's called fire. This fire, what is fire? I want to find out, why is everybody running from it? And they want to check it out. So generally, children ask questions in their mind. And the first type of questions lead them to exploration. So they want to go and find out what is behind this. The second kind of question they ask are questions that they cannot figure out themselves. So these questions, generally, they see the questions, but they are unable to provide answers. They can't tell exactly what is the answer to this question. So what happens? Generally, they now begin to ask questions. Mommy, how far is the moon from the earth? They see the moon. They don't know how far the moon is, but a question comes up in their mind. How far is this moon? And they really want to go out there and discover the answer to that. But they don't have the ability to investigate or find out the answer to that. So they begin to ask questions. So generally, when a child is curious, it's one of two things. They begin to ask questions and they begin to explore. Exploration and asking too much questions are the two signs that a child actually has curiosity. So if you're asking yourself, how do I know if my student is curious enough? Two things. One, are they touching things? So that child that's always touchy, it's not a bad sign. It's a very good sign, very positive sign. It means that there is curiosity. They're touching this, they're checking this, they find out how does that thing work. Is this thing, can it break? A child sees a ball, for example. In a child's mind, all balls bounce. All balls do bounce. But now, the child sees something that looks like a ball on the table and it's shiny. In the mind of that child, this is a ball. However, you know that this is a flower vase. But the child says, I want to check if this ball also bounces. What happens eventually? That child goes out, takes the ball, and tries to bounce it. What happens to that ball? It breaks. When it breaks, what do you say? That child has broken my flower vase. But really, what was that child trying to do? That child was just trying to investigate, how does this thing work? And so it is very important that we recognize those things that we consider problematic actually as signs of curiosity. And when a child is not touching things and not asking too many questions, what it means, guys, is that this child has stopped asking themselves questions. Now, let me give you a framework. This is the way curiosity works. It starts from the mind of the child. The question pops up in the child's mind. He sees something and he's asking questions. He either wants to investigate the answer or ask somebody else for the answer. When a child can investigate, they will. When a child cannot investigate, they will ask questions. And when a child stops touching things or stops asking questions, it's a sign of trouble. It simply means that that child has stopped asking questions internally. If nothing is done to help that child, they will struggle in the workplace. What do I mean? As employers today, we're not looking for people that will tell what to do. We're not looking for employees that will come to the workplace and you're telling them, okay, stand up, sit down, take that file, open that file, go to this place, get that thing done. Every workplace is looking for people who can actually take initiative, who can see problems and rise up to the challenge and respond to those problems on their own. And it starts from that curiosity. So when a child stops asking questions and stops touching things, red flag. It simply means that child needs attention. Now, why is this important? There's something called the global achievement gaps. If you've listened to me a couple of times, I talk about that a lot. The global achievement gaps are these 7 skills that are identified as the core skills that everybody requires to succeed in today's world. If you will succeed in the world today, you need these 7 skills. And what are they? I'm not going to run through them. Number 1 is critical thinking and problem solving. Every child, everybody requires the ability to think critically and solve problems. Of course, we have overflogged those two terminologies, particularly those of us in education and in the workplace. We use those terms a lot: critical thinking, problem solving. your degree is no longer enough to guarantee success in today's world. It does not matter whether you have a first class or a half class or a one class, whatever it is. If you can't think and you can't solve problems. Number two, collaboration across networks. If you can't work together with people, you can't collaborate, you can't work in teams, you cannot succeed in today's world. Number three is agility and adaptability. What does that mean? The ability of a child to go into a place and figure things out by themselves. So whether there's anybody telling you what to do or nobody telling you what to do, this child can adapt to different scenarios. Then number four, initiative and entrepreneurship. Number five, effective oral and written communication. Six, assessing and analyzing information. And then look at number seven, curiosity and imagination. Meaning, it has been recognized globally that if any child will succeed, that child has to be curious, that child has to have imagination, the ability to see things, to ask questions, and to figure out the answers. Now, look at 7 of these skills, globally recognized. At the beginning, we said curiosity is the foundation for critical thinking and problem solving. If a child is not curious and cannot ask questions, they can't think critically, they can't solve problems. Look at number 4, initiative. If there's no curiosity and imagination, a child cannot take initiative. So 3 of these 7 global achievement gaps actually depend on the ability of a child to be curious and to ask the important questions. And so it is extremely important that we do not let these children lose that critical element. But this is the interesting part. Every child was born curious. Every child came to this world with the ability to ask questions. Some children lose it along the way, and many times it gets killed by either parenting or education. What do I mean? People come, and children come to the world, and they're asking questions, but over time, people like, oh, what is your own self? Your questions are becoming too many, and we actually kill the ability of that child to ask questions. So when a child stops asking questions, it's not because that's how they were born. Being introverted and being non-curious are different things. Every child is curious. Every child asks questions. That's why at a particular age, your students are disturbing you. 25 questions per hour. What is this? How is this working? All of those things are good signs. They are signs of curiosity. They are signs that, yes, your child is actually thinking the way they should be thinking. But what happens? What actually kills curiosity? What are the things that make students to stop asking questions? Now, there are 3. There are many, but these 3 are particular. I want to specialize on these 3. Fear. When a child stops being curious, one of the most likely things is that there's fear, and fear of failure. How does fear of failure come about to a child? Because each time that child tries something and does not work, the response of the people who are supposed to reinforce that child, whether they are the teachers or the parents, they introduce fear to the child. Fear from previous responses to intellectual risk-taking. A child answered a question or attempted to answer a question and was wrong. And what do? Oh, you wash down the child. In fact, I can't forget an experience. I think I still have like PTSD from that experience. I was in a school talking to the school owner, and I was overhearing what's happening in one of the classes. And guess what I heard from one of the classes? They were singing shame, 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 shame. I'm like, excuse me, what's happening here? Basically, a child was asked to answer a question, and the child could not answer the question, and suddenly they are now singing shame for the child. What do you think is going to happen to that child? Will that child ever attempt to answer any question in his life again? No way. That child will not even try again. The next time you ask that child, okay, what is the answer to this? The child will just say, I'm not even trying. I'm not even attempting. Why? Previous responses to intellectual risk-taking. Intellectual risk-taking is critical ability that every child must have. What do I mean? The ability of a child to attempt things they know they don't know how to do. Intellectual risk. Of course, many of us as adults particularly, we have killed intellectual risk-taking. We no longer take intellectual risks. We don't try things that we don't know how to do. Of course, I can see teachers are saying, no way, wow, at all. I know some schools, this is an absolute no-no. But you'll be sure that in some schools, they still sing shame, shame, shame to students. They still tell students, oh yeah, now, boo this child. You ask a question, the child fails the question, and I say, now, oh yeah, tell the child, woo. So that you think you're inspiring that child to be able to answer questions next time. But what you have just successfully done is you have killed every attempt that child will ever make again in the near future. You don't want that to be your classroom. You don't want that to happen in your school. And if you're a parent, you don't want that to happen to your child. And sometimes what kills curiosity? Fear of the parent or teacher's reaction. So the child does something or the student does something and the parent reacts in a particular way. Oh my God. And the child sees that reaction. And the child knows that this reaction was not good. And they realize that if I do this thing again, I'm going to get that reaction. So they tell themselves, don't even try that thing again, so that mommy does not react that way, so that teacher does not react that way. So sometimes we unknowingly are the ones killing curiosity in class. We are the ones killing curiosity in our students. And sometimes fear of what you might discover. This one happens a lot, particularly to adults. Most of us adults, you want to find out something, but you are afraid that if I find out the correct answer to this thing, it might go in conflict with my existing bias, with what I think the answer is. So I don't want to create that conflict in my mind. It's like telling people, what is the color of the sun? All of us believe the sun is yellow, the color is orange. I will say, no, let's really go and find out the real color of the sun. Tell yourself, no, I beg, leave that in alone. The sun is orange. Let it remain orange in my head. Because you cannot imagine yourself discovering at the age of 30 that you've been wrong for 30 years. And sometimes that fear of what you might discover is also one killer of curiosity. As parents, as teachers, we must ensure that we do not use fear to kill the curiosity of our students. Because if we do, we're eventually raising students who are going to be zombies, who are just going to go out there and they'll be waiting to be told what to do. So when you see particularly children who are excessively under control, parents tell them, sit down there, don't get up, don't do this, don't do that. After a while, those children just become robots, waiting for you to give them the next instruction. And they actually grow up and go into the real world waiting for people to give them instructions. And I always say this, if your idea of a job is that you're going to get to a place where somebody is going to give you a table and a desk and an office and tell you what to do, then there are no jobs. Because today and now, nobody is telling anybody what to do. If I need to tell people what to do, I can tell AI what to do now. And AI will do it even more perfectly than anybody will do it. So we want people who can think. So fear is one of the killers of curiosity. The next killer of curiosity is the environment. And by this, I mean the places are too organized. A child goes to a place and the place is looking too clean, too organized, that the child knows that, if I touch anything here, it is trouble. So they just sit down in one place. They don't want to touch anything. They don't want to tamper with anything because you've created an environment that restricts exploration, that restricts thinking, restricts trying. So kids are not even making an attempt to try anything new because the environment has become too organized. In some cases, it's your classroom. Your classroom does not inspire creativity. It does not. It just discourages curiosity. It does not even give them room to try out anything new. People must sit down where the teacher says to sit down. You cannot interrupt the class. You cannot raise up. The class has rules, and of course, you know that creative people don't thrive where rules are too many. Go and check out the most innovative companies in the world. They play down on rules and allow people to be imaginative and to be innovative. So yes, environment kills curiosity. And the third one, which is particularly for parents, technology. Technology is one contributor to the killer of curiosity in young people. And what do I mean? That ability of students to have answers at their fingertip. So my daughter comes home and she has an assignment and she asked me the question and she's telling me, can I have your phone? I want to research the assignment. You know what it has done to students? They are no longer using their mind to actually look for answers. They just believe the answers are available. And too much screen time, when children spend too much screen time, always on screen, it actually dampens and kills their curiosity and their ability to ask more and more questions. So there are others, you can check them out, but these three are particularly important for us to know that fear kills curiosity. The wrong environment, not even the wrong environment, the way the environment is designed can actually make your students to stop being curious. And excessive exposure to technology. Technology is good, there is a balance to these things. But when it becomes too much excessive technology exposure, these kids are just going to rely on technology for everything. When you ask them a question, they say, okay, let's Google it now. There's no point looking for the answer. It's on Google. So once you ask them a question, they go on Google and they look for the answer. And somehow they have lost the ability and that element of looking for answers, or asking questions and exploring to find the answers. Now, having known the things that kill curiosity, how do we develop curiosity for our students? This is where it becomes quite important, actually. This is where I'm more interested in, because I can see that a lot of us here are teachers. I think there are some parents. Some of us are doubling as both teachers and parents. So where you fall in the box, it's fine. But there are lots of us here who are actually educators. You're in the education space. You're a school owner. You're a class teacher, and you're asking yourself, how do I help my child? Maybe you've identified that there's one child. This child used to ask so many questions before, but maybe because we have over smacked down on that curiosity, the child has shut down and they've stopped asking questions. What can you do to actually help that child generate or reactivate their ability to be curious? Number one that I'm going to talk about is questions. The number one key for reactivating curiosity: questions. Now, why is questions the key here? Curiosity is originally about asking questions. Just that, number one, the question starts in the mind of the student or in the mind of the child, and then that question drives either drives the child to seek answers or drives the child to ask somebody else the question. So when a child has lost curiosity, what really happens is that this child has stopped asking questions. And so the way to reactivate it is to actually begin by exposing this child to questions. So the way to develop it is to help the mind of that student to get used to asking questions and to get comfortable around finding answers. Like I said, many of us we've stopped taking intellectual risks. So we're not even attempting to ask new questions. As it has been, so it is. If nobody fixes it, let us leave it like that. No, we need to get to the point where we are re-triggering questioning in the minds of our students, in the mind of our young people. And questions are an extremely important tool. Now I'm going to show you something on the screen, and I want to know what generation people are here. So I want to tell me in the comment section, what do you recognize these items and what are they? What's this? Just type it in the comment section. What are you seeing on your screen? This image on your screen, what is it? Let me know whether we are in the same generation or we are in different generations. Do you know what it is? If you know, please type it in the comment section. I want to see your answers. Nobody knows what this is. Okay, so there's plenty Gen Z and millennials here. Is that what it means? Somebody says that's a generator. Okay. Olakunle Folorunsho says that's a generator. Yes, I think you're probably from my generation. You know that thing. Somebody says manual generator. That means even generator has level. This is manual. Rachel, for grinding cassava care. Okay. Somebody has called the name. Somebody say Lister. I think you wanted to write Lister. Matthew said it's a Lister. So it's a Lister generator. It's actually a generator. A particular, this our old school, it's actually as a generator. Now, why did I bring this picture? Yeah, manual generator, you are right. It's a generator engine. Why did I bring this picture? This generator, how it works. So there's a manual system that you go and you turn. You want to start that generator, you must exert energy. The whole idea is this generator runs on a turbine. This turbine must be rotating for it to generate power. But you have to manually trigger that thing. Boom, 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 boom. Then you put in the jar and then it will pick up. Once you start it, it picks up on its own. Now, exactly, Mrs. Jane said you want it to start. Now, this is the point here. When a child has lost curiosity, it means that the brain of that child has stopped asking questions. What you need to do is to wind it back to action by doing what? Exposing that child's brain to questioning. And so questions are an important tool for reactivating or rekindling the generative or the curiosity of your mind. So the generative ability to ask questions, you have to manually start it, and after a while it will pick up by itself. So we need to find a way to manually restart these questions or this curiosity for the children. Now, look at this. The goal of asking questions is not to check for understanding, or not just check for understanding, or to determine who is right or wrong. Teachers in the house, after this is our table. When we're teaching a class, each time we ask questions, it's one of two things. We want to find out, are you understanding me? So who knows the answer? Who understands it? No, that's not the only purpose of question. In fact, questioning is actually a tool for learning. It's meant to trigger thinking. So if you use questioning correctly, you will actually make students to start thinking in their mind. It's not just to say who has understood, who has not understood, what is happening here. No. When you use questions right, it's a very extremely powerful tool in education. And in fact, one of our series, in one of these STEM teaching series, we're going to actually explore a whole topic on questioning, how to use questions alone. But questioning, when used right, helps children become more creative. When children ask questions, most times they just want answer. Daddy, what is the this to that? In fact, sometimes they bring their homework to you and they just want you to tell them the answer. No. We must get to the point where we understand that the goal of question is to make that child think. We want them to reactivate their mind. And generally, there are two broad types of questions. Two types of questions. One question that we call investigable questions, and the other we call them non-investigable questions. Almost every question you ask in your class falls into one of these two categories. And what's the difference? Investigable questions are questions that require the students to perform an investigation before they can answer the question. And that investigation will most times involve experimentation, collection of data, evidence gathering, or something that pushes them to find the answer. And there are questions that are not investigable. These questions don't create an opportunity for investigation or experimentation. The question just requires that the student answers with theory and head knowledge. Every question you ask falls into one of these two boxes. And we're going to look at some practical examples. Because usually, non-investigable questions, they don't do the work we're trying to achieve. This thing we're saying, how to use questions to reactivate a child's curiosity or a student's curiosity, you must be asking the right kind of questions. And by that, I mean investigable questions. Now, look at the major difference between these two kinds of questions. We said investigable questions require the students to do what? To go and find out something, to go and do something. Non-investigable question, just explain the answer and we move. So I'm going to show you two questions, and I'm going to ask you to tell me in the comment section, what kind of question do you think this is? Okay? Now, look at this question. Is this an investigable question or not? Look at the question. Will sugar dissolve faster in hot water or cold water? What do you think this kind of question is? Is this investigable or not? Will this question give the student an opportunity to go and try something or to find the answer by themselves? Yeah, Mary says investigable. Why is it investigable? Or Edith says investigable and non-investigable. Now, this is the point. Let me explain it to you. The major difference is when you ask a question, if this question gives this student an opportunity to be able to discover the answer by themselves, it's a question that can be investigated. So when you tell them, will sugar dissolve faster in hot water and cold water? They say cold, they say hot. Say, you know what? Let's find out. Bring 2 cups of water, one hot, one cold. Put 3 teaspoons of sugar in the water, and then they figure out by themselves which one is the correct answer. Do you know what you have just done? You've turned your class into a lab. So that question, they will never forget the answer to that question. You know why? Because you did not tell them the answer. You actually helped them to discover the answer to that question. That was an investigable question. Now, let me ask you another question. Okay? What is the name of the part of a plant responsible for photosynthesis? Is that investigable or non-investigable? What is the name of the part of a plant responsible for photosynthesis? Okay, people are saying it's investigable. So how do you investigate that? By going to textbook, right? So yes, Olakunle says it's not an investigable. Matthew says non-investigable. Actually, it's not, because this is a question you answer with theory. It's an answer. Okay, what's the name of the plant? It's leaf. What part of the plant does fruit bear on? Branch. Those are questions that you can cram and answer. This is the basic thesis here. Any question that can be answered with memorized information is non-investigable. You see, that is actually, I think that is the biggest problem that our education system gives to us. Overemphasis on cramming and memorization. You can make a first class without knowing how to think. all you can do is they give you the formula, you cram it, you know when to put it, you put it back. Someone says researchable question. This is when you go and do research in textbook, you go online and go and find the answer. But in terms of investigation, that question really does not give the student an opportunity to get hands-on and then begin to find the answers. So what we want to do really as educators and teachers is to learn how to ask the right kind of questions. Ask questions that actually push students to perform investigations. And when looking at investigable questions, there are three main types of investigable questions. Investigable questions fall into three categories, and I'm going to share the three of them with you. Three types of investigations. We have descriptive investigations, comparative, and experimental. And what's the difference? Number one, descriptive investigations focus on counting or describing data from one phenomena. Yes, they are investigating something, but at the end of the day, they are coming back to describe something. An example of such question are listed here. How many seeds are in an apple? Is that investigable or not? It is. So you bring an apple to class and say, okay, guys, this is an apple. How many seeds are in this apple? What will they do? They're going to get a knife, cut the apple, open it, and count the seeds. They are performing an investigation. By the end of the day, the answer to that question will require that they describe something. Or you say, at what time of the day is your shadow the longest? At what time of the day is shadow the longest? What do you think what do they need to do to answer this question? They actually need the whole day. So in the morning, they go out, stand in the sun, measure the shadow, and they record it. In the afternoon, by noon, they go out, measure the shadow, and record it. In the evening, they go out, measure the shadow, and they record it. And they say, oh, in the morning, my shadow was Okay, I think I got it. Hello. Okay, I think I got lost at some point. All right, so I think yes, I'm back. My other device with the camera actually got off. So yes, let me get back this. So somebody is asking, was this an investigable question? Was it a network issue? Was that investigation or not? Okay. So yes, we were talking about different kinds of investigation. The Okay, so descriptive, comparative, and experimental. Forgive me, sorry for that network trouble. Can you hear me now? Just confirm that you can hear me. Please, if you can hear me now, just confirm. Yes, I think the echo should have gone off now. I think it's too much technology here. It's causing too much trouble. All right, great, fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry for that break in transmission. Yes, we're back. We're back on board. So yes, descriptive investigations where you actually get them to find answers that describe solutions, that describe the answers to the questions you ask them. So I gave two examples of those kind of questions. How many seeds are in an apple? At what time of the day is your shadow the longest? You can actually now just questioning. Can anybody give me an example of a descriptive investigative question in the comment? Just a question that can only be answered with a description, or that a question that triggers descriptive investigation. Anybody can give me a question, an example of that. Teachers in the house, let me be sure that we're on the same page. Just type it in the comment section. Yes, anybody there? Let's see. Okay, I think maybe there's a lag or a delay, but let's go on. Let's go on. I have since. Where do you live? Where do you live? Is that an investigable question? Okay. Someone says, how can the network issue be resolved? Is that investigable? Nope. I don't know if that is. I don't know if that is investigable. Um, I don't know. I don't know. How can this network issue be resolved? I wouldn't know, but maybe that's an experimental investigation. But the next type of investigation are what we call comparative investigations, and these ones now require that investigations are you compare two different things to be able to get data. Jane says, how many girls in our class have a pink school bag? Beautiful. How many girls in our class have a pink school bag? Fantastic. So you go out there and you say, oh, check. No, not blink, blue, yellow, yellow. You count. And then you come and say there are 6 students in the class or 6 girls in the class have pink school bags. Fantastic. That's a beautiful investigable question there. Yeah. How long does it take to boil beans? Mary, why is it beans that is coming in as your investigable question? So we put beans on the fire and we put a timer and say, okay, how long does it take to boil beans? That's a very simple, you are describing. So at the end of the day, the answer is 7, 2 hours, 40 minutes, or whatever it is. The next category here are comparative, where you compare two things to each other. So examples are those of that kind of a question is, which of these 2 paper towels absorbs water the most? So in this particular question, you are giving the students 2 objects, 2 elements, 2 paper towels, and you're asking them which of these can absorb water the most. So they will actually try something on one and then try on the second one, and then they'll say, oh, this one absorbs water the most. So someone says, what is the difference between a Toyota and a Lexus car? So this question actually, Olakunle, is an attempt to be a comparative question, but you need to reframe it. You can simply say, which of these cars will drive faster after 1 minute of driving between the Toyota and the Lexus? So you can actually drive a Toyota for 1 minute and drive a Lexus for 1 minute to be able to answer the question. So yes, that is, you are comparing two different things that requires you to actually try something. Something like, why do our food get sour? That's a research question. But anyway, we're going to look at that. But yes, comparative questions requires them to try things. But summary here is this. Whenever you're asking investigable questions, the goal is, let's get the students to think and let's get them to actually try doing something by themselves. And then the last category, or the last type, are the experimental. These ones require them to actually do something. For example, what amount of water results in the most plant growth? Or how does the weight of an item affect its response to gravity? So in this kind of a question, you expect them to actually go and experiment and figure things out. So how much water will make a plant grow? That means they actually need to plant a plant, observe it, and eventually grow and see, and they can eventually tell you what the answer to that question is. Very, very important. So the summary here is, questions are powerful. If the only thing you are doing with questions as a teacher is giving tests and exam and assignments, you are underutilizing questions. Yes, if the only thing you do with question is just when we write tests, you'll be amazed that in fact, you are really not using questions. Questions are not tool for checking learning. They are actually part of learning. So let me look at the questions we have in the chat box. Someone says, clay soil and sandy soil. Which of this soil can be used to mold an object? Fantastic. So bring clay soil, bring sandy soil. Oh yeah, mold a teddy bear with these two soils. When they try using sand and the thing cannot stand, they will tell themselves that this cannot be used to mold objects. Someone says, how many days does a plant grow? Fantastic. I think we're getting to the point now. So this whole item is, don't go and read textbook and tell me the textbook says a plant will grow in 3 months. No, bring your jars to class, plant beans in these jars, and then let us count how many days these jars grow. What you are actually doing to this student with that is that you are reactivating that curiosity in their mind, because they go home and they're thinking, I planted something. And somehow you've gotten them back to that point of asking questions and answering questions. Questions are powerful tools for learning. Okay, now, teachers in the house, let me shake small table. Common or popular mistakes you should avoid every time you ask questions. Teachers, I know we ask questions a lot, but when we ask questions, there are mistakes that we constantly make. And I'm going to share some of them with you. And then these are mistakes you should never make again. Mistake number one, when you ask students in class, calling the first person to raise their hand. How many of you do that thing? So maybe you bring an object to class. Okay, let's even say you brought an apple to class. I say, what color is this apple? Or what color is this mouse? And you say, hey, teacher, me. The natural thing to do as a teacher is you want to call those that raise their hand. But let me tell you why that is not good practice. Remember, we said that the purpose of question is to set students thinking. Once you call students and you ask a question, the moment you pick the first person to answer the question, do you know what happens to the mind of every child in that class? Everybody else stops thinking. So when you ask a question, for example, you ask a question, how long does it take for beans to boil? Let's even say that's just a general question. Everybody is thinking, beans. They're trying to take their mind back to when last they cooked beans, when they remembered seeing beans, what happened to beans. The moment you say, Tony, answer the question, everybody else shut down their brain. So usually in standard practice, there's something we say, when you ask a question, give an amount of time before calling the first person. Don't call somebody as soon as their hand goes up. Give enough time to ensure that everybody in that class has had an opportunity to process the question and think of an answer. That way, by the time you are asking people, everybody's giving the answer that they've already thought. You've actually maximized the power of that question because you've allowed the question to simmer into the mind and has activated thinking. So the next time you ask questions, don't mean how to say, who has the answer? Oh, yes, what's the answer? That kills the power of questioning. Does that make any sense, teachers? That's one popular mistake teachers make. Quickly calling the first person, because most times I know you understand, you're checking, time is going, I don't have time, I want to just go, so I want to finish my curriculum. You are in a hurry to actually pick people. Most times when you ask a question as a teacher, you are looking for answer. Once you get the right answer, you move. Once you get the right answer, you move. And that actually leads me to the next big mistake that teachers make. Immediately giving feedback on question, whether the answer is right or wrong. That is also a mistake that we make as teachers. So you ask a question and someone raises their hand, especially if it's a question they don't have the answer to. That student is taking an intellectual risk. Once they give the answer, if the answer is right, you say, yes, it's correct, you move on. The answer is wrong, you say, no, answer is wrong. Who has the correct answer? No. Usually, what you want to do with whether the answer is right or wrong is that you want to find out, where is this thinking coming from? If this thing is yellow and the child says it is green, you just say answer is wrong. Next, what you have done is there is a primary misconception that student has somewhere, and you have not addressed the source of that wrong answer. So you don't immediately give feedback to questions, whether the answer is right or wrong. You want to drive that question or that response to get to what is the source of this answer. So when they say the answer, sometimes they can guess an answer and the answer is correct, and you think they know what they are doing. Most times, they don't even know what they are doing. Imabong says curriculum monitors won't let us breathe because they are telling you must finish curriculum. I understand. Now, that's the problem. It is curriculum monitors that have gotten to us to where we are. If finishing curriculum, I've been finishing curriculum the last 30 years. What has it done to us as a nation? All of us went to school and finished curriculum, and we come out and we cannot find jobs. Because the focus of that learning was on ticking checkboxes, not on actual activating the minds of students. So it is better that your curriculum is 30% done, 40% done, but you have achieved something significant. The students, the purpose of that learning has happened. The goal of going to school is not to come out with information, is to actually get people thinking. Many of us that went to school, do you know what we have become? Containers of redundant information. We crammed, we memorized, we have answers, we came out and we can do nothing with those answers. Things that we did not need, they made us learn them. If you did sciences here, you drew cockroach, you drew mosquito, you drew all manner of things. What in the world have you ever done with that information that you learned? When you drew cockroach, what do you carry cockroach do for this life? When you see cockroach today, I was asking some students the other day, they say, and we drew cockroach so that we can identify cockroach. I say, good. You drew cockroach to identify cockroach. Today, in real life, when you see cockroach, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Kill it. So you drew cockroach so that you can learn how to identify, so that you can kill it. How about now? The brain has more function than that. So, yes, curriculum managers or curriculum monitors want to check, have you finished the curriculum? But understand that the purpose of coming to school is to get our young people to have their minds active. We have people today who are graduates, they've gone through school, they have degrees, but unfortunately, they have never had the opportunity to use their minds for one day. They don't think. So they see problems and they don't have the capacity to see those problems and convert them to opportunities in their mind. It's just, problem. The day you give them a problem that they didn't teach them in class, what do they say? They didn't teach us that one. Why? Because all that they did was memorizing. So you're not concerned, the purpose of questioning, you're not looking for right or wrong answers. You want to help this child be able to figure the answer by themselves. So sometimes that wrong answer, you will stay on it. You will drill into that wrong answer. So they say, what is this? What is the color of this water? They tell you that this water is yellow. Okay. Yellow is the wrong answer. You know the answer is wrong. Why do you say it's yellow? You want them to explain to you what is making them think it is yellow. You might realize that there's actually a misconception somewhere. And in the classroom, misconceptions are more dangerous than ignorance. Ignorance is when a child comes to class, a student comes to class, and they don't know that they don't know the answer, they don't know what it is. Misconception is when you know something or you think you know something, but what you know is wrong. And the purpose of school is to do both, to solve ignorance and to correct misconceptions. So misconception is this child feels they have the answer. When you ask a question, the one that does not even raise his hand is the one that believes, I don't even know the answer to this question at all. So let me just wait for the teacher to tell us the answer. But the one that raised the hand and gave you a wrong answer thought they knew the answer. So in fact, that is even the person you should spend more time with. The one that answered the question wrongly is the person you should actually spend more time with, trying to probe the answer to that question and helping them figure out what exactly is the problem. Where is this wrong answer coming from? Don't just seek to give them answers and load them with information and say, yes, we have finished our curriculum. We have curriculum manager, we finish the topic. And what's the topic? Well, they can define photosynthesis, they can define osmosis, they can define what is this. Excuse me, what in life do they do with osmosis? What in life do they do with photosynthesis? How does this thing work? Is to drive understanding. And then one of the third mistakes that we have teachers is calling the same set of students repeatedly because you know that they will get it right. And because you are running for time, you want the people that will give you the correct answer so you can move. So, what is the question? Answer this question. And two people raise their hand. Among the two of them, you know the one that knows the answer. And you are in a hurry to move on. So you call the one that has the correct answer. And he says, clap for him. Next thing we move. What about the ones that did not know the answer? When this person has answered it correctly and you say they should clap for them, and they ask him, how is that the answer? You're not interested in them, whether they knew the answer, whether they understand how you got to the answer. You just want to move on and go. Let me give you an activity that will shock you. Go and try this in your next classroom. I'm sure if you teach in a modern school, your classroom is quite sizable. You don't have a very large classroom of 50 students, maybe 18, 19, 20 at the maximum. Get a piece of paper in your next class, okay? And draw your classroom layout. Draw your classroom layout. What I mean by draw it is, draw the seats in the class on a piece of paper, the same way students sit down. And if possible, but you don't have to put the names of the student, but before the class, draw a map of the class, all the seats, and get somebody in class, another teacher, to stand and observe your class and help you tick. Each time you call a student to answer a question, they should put a tally on that student's head on the paper. So if I call somebody from here, the seat where that student is sitting, they should write 1. When I call that student the second time, they should write another. You know how to do that tally? 1, 1, 1, and then cross to make it 5. They should tally the students in the class who you pick to answer questions. After a 1-hour class, look at your drawing. You will be shocked to realize that you're probably calling the same people every time to answer the same questions, but you have never realized it because you've never analyzed that data. So try it in your next class. Actually, make an attempt to find out, am I calling the same people? It's either you are calling people from the same section or you're calling the same students. Those are mistakes that we make as teachers. And you'll be amazed that it shut. Some people just shut down completely. Say, even if I raise my hand, they won't call me. Because you, the teacher, you know that these students may not answer the question correctly. And because you want the right answer, you won't call the one that doesn't have the right answer. After a while, that one stops making attempts. We're talking about curiosity here. How do you keep your students curious? How do you keep them in the state where they are consistently asking questions and seeking answers? Don't make these popular mistakes that teachers make. I'm running out of time here, but just give me a few minutes. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to actually shut down and I can take your questions. I didn't want it to go beyond an hour of teaching and then we can just take questions, but network kind of messed us up a little bit. So I'm just going to be very fast with my next point. Okay, so first point in helping students develop curiosity is questions. The next tool is the learning space. Learning spaces. Make your learning space to be one that trigger questions, that spark curiosity and encourage investigation and exploration. So look at the picture of this child on the screen. This child is passing. What did this class do? They put something that they knew will attract the attention of this child. And when this child's attention is attracted, what is that thing? What would they want to do? What is that? They want to find out. So whether it is sand, next time, if you teach younger children, maybe preschoolers, try this in class. Bring a bowl of sand to class and keep it on the table and let your students pass through. You will be surprised as they are passing, they will check the sand. They will touch the sand. They will want to check. You know what you've done? Just by putting a bowl of sand in your class, you have sparked something in their mind. What is that? Why the teacher brings sand to class? What is that? Your learning space can either make your students just to come to class and wait for instructions, or to make them to activate that their faculty of asking questions in their mind. Okay, so your learning space, very, very important. Learning spaces, don't just have boring, monotonous classrooms. And for teachers, let me just share with you a few tweaks you can make to your learning space, few things you can change to your classroom that can actually make your classroom very, very fantastic space for generating curiosity. Number one, make play items accessible to students. They shouldn't have to ask you before they can reach items needed for play and investigation. So in your class, you are teaching young students, and there are toys, maybe it's STEM, robotics, Lego. Yes, those items are there for the students, but they are kept in a space where nobody's hand can reach. It's only when you, the teacher, decide that they use it. Standard practice says make these things where they can access it. So when you ask a question, what makes, or you ask a simple question, will salt float, will an egg float in salt water or not? Can they find water? Can they find salt? Can they find egg? Put those things within their reach. Put those things where their hand can get to, so that they can actually investigate by themselves. So redesign your classroom, change it, make things accessible. Number two things, make the sitting arrangement to be less monotonous and restrictive, and more encouraging of collaboration and exploration. Let your classroom not be like a factory. You know the way our factories are? Assembly line, row by row. Let students be able to move. Let your classroom design allow them, if they want to check something, they should be able to check it. Of course, I'm sure that no school today still uses this desk. You know, this desk that you have, both the table and the chair are connected together, and they are long, 4 students on one. Before you can come out, you are trying to squeeze out of. So movement is restricted. You have boxed those students. No, that's not what you want to do. Make your classroom a little bit more accessible, make sitting arrangements less monotonous. From time to time, change the sitting arrangement. Let them sit in a different place, swap them, scatter them, mix them up. Let that entire classroom be a place that actually makes their mind asking you questions. So a child should not sit by the window for the whole term, and a child should not sit by the wall for a whole term. So you have a child who sits by the wall. They never see things out the window, because you say this child is getting distracted. You see that window they are looking at, that they see something flying and they get distracted. It's part of learning, guys. Getting distracted is part of it. Seeing something is the curiosity. You say, they're getting distracted. Keep it from that. Make it, scatter it. Let one today, where you face the wall, go to this side. Just let them not know what to expect each time they come to class. It makes your classroom more exciting. It makes your learning more exciting, and it makes curiosity flow freely in the classroom. For this, factor safety. Don't be too creative at the expense of student safety. Now, this is very important. So that I said you should bring sand to your class does not mean you have to come and put sand in front of 2-year-olds and put it on every desk, and you, the teacher, you have stepped out. They will eat the sand. And when they eat that sand, don't blame them. It was simple curiosity. In fact, if they don't eat that sand, something is wrong with them. They are supposed to eat that sand, because the curiosity is, what is this thing? Is this sweet? It's not sweet. Is it soft? They want to chew it. Those things are actually part of the experience. If you give a child sand and that child does not put that sand in their mouth, then there's a problem. They are actually supposed to explore. They are actually supposed to that curiosity, something should make them ask questions. Something should make them say, hey, teacher, why is this happening? Why is this sand bitter? Why is this? So factor safety. When you're trying to get them curious and explore, don't leave out safety. So you're putting gadgets in class, be careful with cables, with wires. Learning spaces are an important element, and safety is an important element. Then set guidelines for the use of items, especially if you are actually teaching older kids. So label things. Let them know, okay, this is salt, this is sugar, this is these are wires. Let them know what it is, and let them have a guideline for how to use things. You are not just giving them freedom to explore, you are helping them develop independence, when they can actually take initiative on when to do things and when to use things by themselves. So those are just a few tweaks you can make to your classroom. I am going to have to stop the main lesson here, the fact is that what we're doing here is actually a series. It's something that we're going to be doing. It's called our STEM teaching series. So this is just one, talking about curiosity, is just one element in our developing innovation series. The whole idea behind our STEM teaching series is we want to empower educators, teachers, parents to raise innovative children, innovative students. And there are the tools necessary to do that. So for you as a teacher, if you can't encourage or develop curiosity of your students, at least don't kill it. At least don't kill it. Don't be the one that will dampen it. You know what now? You know what kills curiosity? Fear, excessive organization. The class is too organized. Everything. The rules are too many that you cannot even. There's no room for the child to do something outside the rules. Periodically, let them break the rules. In fact, a child that does not break the rules is a problem. Breaking of the rule is part of the sign that this child is actually thinking properly. So don't be the kind of teacher that will kill the curiosity or the creativity of your students. Ultimately, the goal of this series is to empower you to do what? To teach differently, to parent differently, to raise students differently, and to help students to actually become thinkers, innovators. We need to move from a consumer economy to a creator economy. Our schools are the ground zero. The classroom is the ground zero for creating whatever I want to see in the economy or in the system. And so an empowered classroom with the right teacher is actually a place where innovation is being brewed. All right, I'm going to have to stop here and take questions. We'll probably have the next 10 to 12 minutes for questions, and in 80 minutes exactly from starting time, we will be done. So you have any questions, just type it in the chat, in the comment section, and I will take your question. I'm just looking at the comments there. Yeah, children are actually supposed to explore. Yes, they are. If they don't explore, something is actually not right. What's it? Eating sand and experiment? Yes, eating sand is experiment. If you give them sand and they don't eat that sand, know that you are raising fearful students who cannot try things on their own. And remember, this is why this is important. Curiosity is the fuel for innovation, for problem solving. So if you want to see more innovation, empower young people to ask questions. In organizations, people who don't ask questions will not be able to invent new things. They will not be able to discover new things. They will not be able to solve new problems. They're going to stay with what has already been done. They're going to stay with what has already existed. So we have people who only thrive on existing discoveries, and other people should discover, we will use. We need to move Nigeria and Africa beyond that, and it starts with the classroom. Education is still ground zero. Most of the symptoms we see in the society, the disease starts from the classroom. Unemployment is a symptom that can only be cured from the classroom. When we get our classrooms right and people learn how to think, they go out of school empowered to solve problems, to identify opportunities, and they can tweak with problems till they find solutions. And that is what we really, really want to see. If you have any questions, please type them. And if there are no questions, just let me know. You have any question about anything? Talked about curiosity, talked about questioning, investigable questions, talked about different things today, whichever of them, the classroom environment. I hope, well, someone says this has been a super amazing session. Thank you, premium content. Let me know. But if you don't have a question, at least in the comment section, tell me one thing that you're taking away from today. We're going to end here in 5 minutes. Tell me something you're taking away from here today. How to answer a difficult question from a curious student, e.g., a 2-year-old asking about sex. Okay, very, very great. So in this kind of a case, it simply means that that child had access to information. They've seen something that they don't understand. Whenever a child asks a question, remember this: questions are not sign that this child is being troublesome. Each time a student asks a question, there's one of two things. Remember, we said each question a child asks, there are two types of questions they ask: the ones that they can find out themselves, and the ones they cannot find out themselves. If they can find it out themselves, they won't ask you. They will go and figure it out. For example, like we said, you put something in a bottle, and a child sees that bottle, and the child says, what is this? What is this? If that child can reach it, that child will want to find out by themselves. They won't ask you what is that. What will they do? They will crawl there, take the bottle, open it, and probably drink it to figure out what is this. So whenever a child asks you a question, it simply means that they have seen something, there's a question in their mind, but they don't have the capacity to find the answer. Now, you need to be able to, first of all, in this case, where the question, like this question that's a 2-year-old asking about sex, you want to be able to probe backward. What did this child see? Did this child see a scene in a movie and he's saying, what are they doing? Did this child see two people doing something and is confused and saying, what were they doing? It helps to know where the question is coming from so that you can actually answer the main question, not what the child thinks they are asking. But if it's a 2-year-old, of course, there's a limit to what a 2-year-old can understand. So you give them at the level what they can understand, but be sure that you are actually addressing the question that they asked. So that is the response I'm going to give you to that. Actually, don't ignore the question. When you stop answering student question, they will stop asking questions. And you don't want to get them to a point where they stop asking questions. Someone says, is it possible for a teacher who is not curious to develop curiosity in young students? So there's a general saying that we say, you can't give what you don't have, right? The truth is, as an adult, you also need to reactivate. Many of us, we have lost, our curiosity has been killed. Remember, we say that every child was born curious, but somewhere along the line, something or someone killed it. So I think for you as a teacher, it will help you yourself to reactivate that in your own self. But even if you can't reactivate it for yourself, at least you have the tools. Try to help them. Like I said in one of our last slides, if you can't help them develop it, at least don't kill it. So you know what kills the curiosity of students. So do things that will actually help them to maintain it, develop it, and let them convert that curiosity to what we call scientific reasoning. Because at the end of the day, science and discovery starts from question. If there's no question, someone says, an apple fell on Albert Newton's head, and he says, why did this apple fall? See, if there was no curiosity in Isaac Newton, we won't have gravity today. We won't know what gravity is. Gravity has always been there. But because apple has been falling on people's head for a long time, nobody asked the question, why did the apple fall down? But the apple fell on one guy and said, excuse me, apple on tree, it fell down. Why did it not stay on the tree? Why did it come down? So it's that ability to ask questions that drives all form of discovery, invention, and development. Let's ensure that we never get our students to the point where they stop asking questions. Let them constantly be able, let them be free, let them have the liberty. So the one that asks a question that a 2-year-old asks an inappropriate question that we think is inappropriate rather, if you don't answer that question, the next time they will not ask you questions. So let me see what the take-homes are here. My take-home from this session content, from premium content is, never be too rigid. Don't create fear. Fantastic. Don't create fear. Allow students to be free. Allow them to explore. Allow them to let them try things out. Don't overreact when they do things. When a child breaks a cup, do you know what that child was primarily doing? What will happen if this cup falls? It's a question the child was asking. If you overreact, the next time the child asks a question, tells them, if I ask a question again, mommy will scream. So let me not even ask that question. So don't be too rigid. If you are raising children, children are meant to be children. They will break. Which of you did not break something now, Biko? Which of you did not break plate in your parents' house? All of us did. So don't be too rigid. Chioma says misconception is more dangerous than ignorance. Yes, it is. Ignorance is, this child is blank. What's the answer? I don't know. Misconception is what will make a child argue with you, say, no, that's not correct, because they think they have an answer, but their answer is based on false assumption. For example, and some of these superstition, religious beliefs that have no scientific backing, children come from different backgrounds. So how many of you ever heard this statement? When rain is falling and the sun is shining, what is happening? They say lion is delivering child somewhere. You heard that thing, you took it. A child will innocently hear it and we believe it. So the next time in class, say, so why does the sun shine where rain is falling? Child say, no, because lion is delivering children. Now that's misconception. Ignorance is a child that says, I don't even know the answer. Misconception is, no, I know the answer. The lion is giving birth somewhere. That's why the sun is out. Probing for misconception, topic for another day. We're going to have to probably have that in the series, talking about how do you identify misconceptions. And really, there are tools I can share with you that will enable you to know when a child actually has misconception and when it is ignorance. So Jen says, oh, how can a teacher assist a child who has already lost confidence in himself? in developing curiosity? Fantastic question. So this child has lost confidence. Now, I think it helps if the first thing you do is to try to find out where did the damage happen. If it's from home, then you can, if you are trying to restore this confidence in school and the damage is continuing at home, you'll be doing and somebody's undoing. So it helps if you are able to get the parents or the home, if it's from home, get the home on the same page. Let them try to find out, is there something you are doing that makes this child lose confidence in himself? Maybe you scream too much. Every mistake the child makes, this. Children will make mistakes. That is why they are children. Our homes are meant to be laboratories that create platforms for children to attempt dangerous things in a safe environment. It's not outside they should do dangerous things. The child that wants to somersault from the table should be able to somersault in your house. Put the cushion, let them somersault safely. Don't let them go and try it outside otherwise. So first thing to do is try to probe, where is this coming from? And then you can actually now start applying those things. In some cases, as a teacher, it's important that you pay attention to that child, be specific, ask more questions, select the child to answer more questions, help the child understand that there's nothing wrong with your thinking, your mind is working. When that child takes intellectual risk, affirm the child, even if they make mistakes, even if they answer questions wrongly, let them know that the purpose of coming to school is not to get answers right. If they knew the answer, they won't come to school. So the reason you are here is because you don't know the answer. So it's okay to answer questions wrongly. Let there be that safety. Let them have that freedom to be able to make mistakes, and then gradually help them gain back their confidence. Show them, okay, so if you have a question, this is how to get the right answer, and then they will actually get the answers back. Someone says, where do I draw the line for a child being curious and being disobedient? So being disobedient is when, even when you have explained or you've given instructions and the child is just trying to, sometimes you see, disobedience is actually a child trying to get some attention in some cases. Of course, I know that there are extremes where a child is just trying to be, but most times, every disobedience is somebody trying to get attention. Why do we protest? When we say we are protesting on the street, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get the government's attention. That there's something you guys are doing, we don't like it. We will do something that will make you give us attention. That's protest. I think disobedience falls in the same box. So usually, when a child is consistently disobedient, don't just term that child as this child is disobedient. You want to find out what is the attention this child is trying to get. Curiosity is positive. Disobedience is negative. But disobedience also can have a sign that something is. So you want to actually try and find out what is the trigger. Where is this disobedience coming from? I hope I'm answering the question. If there's any question that is not clear, please feel free to ask. Someone says, what is the balance between freedom and rules in classroom and at home as both a parent and a teacher? Okay, between freedom and rules. Remember when I was talking about giving students access to play items in class and all of those things, I talked about setting rules for those things. Let them know these things are labeled. This is when you can use them. Let me see if I have that slide that talked about yes. So look at the last item here. Set guidelines for the use of items. If possible, label things and let them know what and when things can be used, even in your absence. So freedom does not mean lack of rules. They are not the same thing. So yes, giving them liberty, let them be able to decide that, okay, today I want to do an experiment between salt, sugar, and Coca-Cola. But let them know that this thing can only be done from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. That is the difference. Rules set a boundary for freedom. So freedom is, you are not choking them that you can't do anything. They have the freedom to decide what they can do, but within a boundary that, okay, this is when you can do it, this is how you can do it, and these are the limitations to what you can do. Is this a question? I teach a set of pupils who ask questions at every point during every lesson. They even told me today that it's because they are curious. It's burdensome, but I've learned that, okay, that comment is not complete. Yes, it can be burdensome, especially when you are running against time. If you are racing against time, it's like, what are they going to say? It says my take home is, if you can't create curiosity in a child, at least don't kill it. At least don't kill it. Someone says we don't have questions answered for those of us on LinkedIn Live. Oh, LinkedIn Live is not showing here. I can't see your comments from LinkedIn and Facebook. Is there a problem with StreamYard? Okay, I don't think I'm. So I think people are. This event is live on both Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on stream and on YouTube. It's like I'm only seeing the comments from YouTube. Forgive me. Maybe we'll check the technical issues for that. Is there a leveling ground between curiosity and critical thinking? Absolutely. Curiosity leads to critical thinking because it's when you ask question that you can think of the answer. So if there's no curiosity, there can be no critical thinking. I think that is the relationship between them. If you don't ask questions, you won't even have the opportunity to answer them at all. So yes, you are saying my children are not thinking, they're not thinking. Thinking is not the problem. Questioning is the problem. Trigger curiosity, enable them to ask questions. They will have what to think about. When you have not asked questions, what do they even want to think about? Nothing to think about. So yes, that is the link between curiosity and critical thinking. Someone says, I remember when rape was very important, rampant in the news some years ago, and my little brother asked me what rape was. Of course, he's hearing rape. And he has not seen any bottle that they label rape. He has not seen any drink called rape. That means it's not a drink, it's not a bottle. What is this rape they're talking about? That child deserves an answer. So do not create fear in any child. Shaming and bullying a child is a huge killer. Fantastic lesson there. And so, yes, let me see. Are there more questions? My take home today is that teachers are responsible for nurturing curiosity in their children. We shouldn't kill it. Also, curiosity killers we should watch out for. Fantastic. Someone asked, can we get the slides? So yes, I'm going to post the slide on my LinkedIn profile. I think that's the only way I can share slides. I can't share slides on Facebook and on YouTube. But I'm going to put the slides on my LinkedIn profile. So if you follow me on LinkedIn at David Ogunshola, you're going to see the slides there. And I think we're probably going to put it at we're going to put it somewhere and find we'll find a way to get it across. If you registered for the event, you'll probably get the slide in your email. If you didn't register, you just joined us live. We don't have your email, so it will be difficult for us to pass the slides across to you. But whichever the case, we'll do our best to ensure that you get the slides. Okay, did I miss any question in particular? I know I was looking. If there's any question I missed, please help me point it back. If not, this is 1 hour, 23 minutes. And I told myself that we're not going to go beyond 90 minutes. You've all had a very long day. Today is Tuesday. You have another full day tomorrow. So it's important that you are able to go back. But hopefully, okay, someone has a question. Okay. Please, how do I respond to a child who asks a question that's much more advanced for the child's age? Okay, I think that's the same question we asked earlier. You want to find out, where is this question coming from? What did they see? It's important to know what is triggering the question. The truth is, if you avoid answering that question, the main trigger in that child's mind is still there. And if you don't give them the right answer, they will find answers in the wrong places. So it's important that you give them the right answer. Now, because you are the teacher, you can contextualize the answer to be age appropriate so that you don't tell them explicit things. Don't give them explicit answers. But as much as possible, try to make sure that that thing that is making them ask the question, that question that is in their mind, original question in their mind, that it actually gets answered. Otherwise, you're going to leave them with more questions and they will go elsewhere to find answers. So yes, try your best, make it simple, make it easy, but by every means, probe for the origin of the question and give them the answer that addresses that main question. Let me think of a possible example for you. So if a child asks you, why is there a rainbow in the sky? It's possible that the child saw colors elsewhere that look like the rainbow. So you want to know what happened. So why are you asking the question? So most times it's important to ask, okay, why are you asking that question? If they can explain to you why they're asking the question, it becomes very easy for you. So don't be in a hurry to answer questions. Sometimes probe further, ask follow-on questions to get the real question behind the question. So it's possible that they are framing the question wrongly. You want to get the right answer to ensure that you give them the right response. Ebenezer says, how do you deal with timid kids? Timid kids are simply kids who have probably been battered by fear or environment that has killed questioning, or basically, I think whenever I see timidity is a sign of fear. Let me get that slide that talked about the 3 killers of curiosity. Yes. So remember this slide, 3 killers of curiosity: fear, environment, technology. Look at fear. Fear of failure, fear from previous responses to intellectual risk-taking, fear of parent or teacher's reaction, fear of what they might discover. Fear is the primary killer of creator of timidity. So what to do is try to make that child comfortable and make them understand that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay if you do the wrong things. Otherwise, it's actually fear that makes children tell lies. If a child knows that there's no fear, that I'm not, if I tell the truth, nothing is going to happen, or worst case scenario, I get corrected, they will not tell lies. So anyway, timid children help trace the origin of timidity and try to create an atmosphere of freedom and liberty around them and kill all form of fear. Fear is the primary driver of timidity. All right. Thank you so much. It's been a great time. I've had a great time. Hopefully, we're going to have this on a month. We will have a long series. There's a lot that we're learning. Interestingly, we've been doing these things actually privately. This is our first time bringing it publicly to see how we can help more people to learn these things that we are learning. So the next time we run the next seminar, which is likely going to be in a month from now, feel free to join, register, and it's going to be a time of tremendous value. If you have questions and you're thinking, oh, I want to ask more questions, you can actually find me on social media and feel free to send me a DM. My website is davidogunshola.com. So just go there and you can find me, follow me online, send me a DM anytime. I'll be happy to answer any question. And if there are any questions that maybe I missed somewhere in the chat box and we need to answer it better, feel free to ask me, chat me up privately and say, okay, that question. And if we need to put it as part of the next webinar, we will put it. Honestly, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your coming. For those of you who teach, you are doing a fantastic work. Teachers, you are the lifeblood of the society. I was telling my team the other day, I think that there's a major misconception for the teaching profession. I'm ending with this now. As teachers, understand that our primary product is knowledge. We are responsible for transferring knowledge from one generation to the other. Teaching is not what you thought it was. I'm sure when you hear the word teacher, most of us are thinking of our primary school headmaster, our primary school teacher. You're thinking the highest level you can get to is become headmaster, become principal. Teaching is way bigger than that. You are the custodians of information, custodians of knowledge, knowledge that sets people free, knowledge that causes. In fact, I tell people, I've been saying this over time, we are approaching that time when in this country, Nigeria, teachers who know their jobs are going to be in high demand. They're going to earn more than bankers, more than oil workers. So don't think that you are just teaching. No, understand that you are a custodian of knowledge and information. Our entire human civilization will be at risk if we don't have teachers. Teachers who understand that I'm not just teaching math in class, I am transferring knowledge to the next generation. So carry yourself with dignity, understand that what you're doing, it's very, very valuable. We appreciate all your contributions, appreciate all you're doing, and thank you so much. Keep being amazing. Go out there, teach differently, raise curious kids. I can promise you the next generation is going to show that our generation did something different with the education system. So thank you so much, and God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening and enjoy the rest of your week. God bless you, and go have a great time out there. Right? Bye-bye.